Welcome into Mailbag Monday here on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. I'm Jay Zawaski, and with me is Joe Brand from WGN. Nope, it's not Greg. Nope, it's not Mario. It's me and Joe Brand. Mario is in Florida. Greg is tending to a sick dog, so send some good vibes Stella's way. She needs our vibes right now for sure. But with Greg's great hair out, I had to hit up the two best hair guys on the beat, Charlie and Joe. Joe, I wrote you first.
I was going to say Charlie wasn't available.
And then Joe got back. I'm like, good, you got it. So Joe Brand is here to answer all your mailbag questions. So thanks for being here, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Always fun to pop by.
It's this will be fun. So we got I think Steven's producing today. I think this is the most questions we've ever gotten on a Mailbag Monday.
It's definitely the most graphics I've ever had to make.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
I'm thinking it was like 30 plus.
I know we had at least, we have 13 Discord questions.
It was up there. I didn't want to count that.
Yeah,
number.
so join us for Mailbag Monday through Thursday this week. By the way, because of what's going on with Stella, for those of you planning to come to Salerno's tonight for a watch party, we are rescheduling that to a week from Friday. So Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final, we will be out at Salerno's on tap on Grand to watch the game. Not tonight. So if you're planning on going tonight, we're not going to be there. You can still go to Salerno's. They're going to have the game on, but Greg and I will not be there. But you can still save 50% on your pizza with the code CHGO. So still head out to Salerno's, but the official watch party is postponed until next Friday. All right, should we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, first question comes from SP84. Defensemen are valued highly on draft day. While it seems like the group is much more aligned to take Demidov or Levshunov, Did I get it?
Nailed it.
Yes, got it. All right. Could an argument be made that taking Doc over Byram led to the deal that gave the Blackhawks Nazar? And while that will likely work out, not having Byram could hurt the system because it helped play a part in adding Seth Jones 2 years later.
I think that's dangerous thinking.
Yeah.
I don't think you can look and say, well, we passed on a defenseman for a forward before, so now if we do it again, it's not going to work again. I think what you have to do is take the best available player in your mind.
Yeah, that's reading into a lot of different layers and two totally different GMs. I appreciate the positivity of thinking of the butterfly effect, how it's working out for the Hawks, because how many people have really thrown out the Kirby Doc draft from just a few years ago. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you want to dive into this right now about Demidov and Levshunov and the pros and cons of that.
Yeah, we should probably get there right away because a lot has happened over the last, I would say, 24 hours. So a lot of people all weekend were making a lot of the fact that Artyom Levshunov, we'll play this in a little bit, has been being courted by the Blackhawks. They've taken him to dinner several times. They've been meeting with him. And at first, I was like, well, they have the second pick. They're probably choosing between 2 or 3 guys. They don't have access to Demidov right now. So I don't know if the fact that they're going out with Levshunov alone means anything.
Are they going steady? Are they
Facebook
I don't
official? Think it necessarily dictated, but I've gotten some new information over the last couple hours, frankly, that there's not a lot of certainty that Demidov is not going to sign another deal in Russia. There are some teams that are concerned that, look, he's got another year on his deal, and between now and that deal expiring, he can sign an extension at any time to stay in Russia. And if you look at what Cam Robinson wrote about it, and I've been talking to some people behind the scenes, there's now a little bit of fear about the Demidov factor. Now, remember, there's going to be that showcase coming up in like the week before the draft. A lot of the Milstein agents, including Ivan Demidov, will be, almost like doing
down in Florida, right?
Yeah, in Florida, they'll be doing like
a meet and greet.
Yeah, and the equivalent of like what Caleb Williams did. Instead of working out at the combine, they work out in a controlled environment. Demidov is injured, so he won't be skating. So there's all of a sudden, a lot of hesitation around Demidov. I don't know if it's smoke and mirrors. I don't know what it means, but I saw Cam Robinson speculating. Robinson loves Demidov, loves him. Even he speculated he might fall out of the top 5 because of this.
I don't think that if anyone were to pass on Ivan Demidov, it's because of, they don't think he's the guy. I think that's a general consensus with everything right now. There's the injuries, there's the Russia factor, there's the, as you mentioned, maybe sticking around out there for a little bit longer. I feel like there's another possible factor. All of them, Kyle Davidson has kind of put aside and saying, no, it's not really a factor. But when do all of these possible factors actually become a factor? I've kind of stuck to my guns about Artyom Levshunov, mainly because I don't just want to sway just because everyone else is going with Ivan Demidov. If it comes down to those two guys, I think it's a win-win for the Hawks in the long run, in the grand scheme of things. And if they go with either one, I'm not going to hold back. They should have went with that one. They should have went with that one. But, I mean, going back to January, because the mock draft has fluctuated a lot.
Yes, it has.
But Artyom Levshunov has kind of hung around there.
Yeah.
I said this on my podcast. I feel like Levshunov has the higher floor, but Demidov's got the higher ceiling.
I think that's pretty fair. I think that's pretty accurate. That's a good way to put it. Here's what Cam Robinson said. This is a half hour ago. I've spoken to nearly a dozen teams about the Russian winger Demidov. To a person, everyone acknowledged he has some of the highest potential in the class, but no single team indicated they would feel secure in taking him with a top 2 or even 5 pick. He's a slider candidate for sure. The concerns aren't entirely due to his birth certificate either. He's basically been unchallenged for 2 years. No pro action, no international action. Slider size wing, dynamic but risk attached. Now, obviously, not all these teams are picking in that range, so all it takes is one team to step up and swing. If I'm a betting man, I still think he goes in that top 5 range, but nothing is assured at the draft. So that's on Demidov. Now, the other thing is Caden Lindstrom, who's also been in this mix in the top 5. All of a sudden, no one seems as concerned about his physicals anymore. He performed a couple things at the combine, not everything, but did okay. And the fears about his back seem to be a little bit quelled from a lot of teams now. So I think now he's a potential for the Hawks to, I don't know. Here's what I'll say. We're not going to know until that day, right? And I'll say this. As now itchy as I am about Demidov, and I've been Team Demidov since we started talking to draft experts, as itchy as I am now, I'm confident that if the Hawks sign him, they know he's coming.
That's a good point.
Draft him, right?
That's a good point, because they're clearly doing their due diligence about this. The Caden Lindstrom thing that gives me a little bit of pause is, okay, don't just go with Lindstrom because your heart was set on Demidov and now that offensive power isn't there anymore. I mean, go with what you said. Go with the best available player. And again, with Levshunov's higher floor, just seems like more consistency, and you kind of get a better idea of what you're getting from him, along with look at the track record of defensemen coming from NCAA.
Yeah.
With Alex Vlasic included.
Yeah.
Adam Fox, Cal McCarr, all these guys are proven that was the right recipe. And the fact that Levshunov came over to Green Bay, exceeded.
Yep.
Came over to Michigan State, Big Ten Freshman of the Year, Defenseman of the Year, all in his first year. I mean, what makes me hold back that he won't get acclimated that well to professional hockey? I feel like the track record is there.
I agree with you. I like what you said about the floor and the ceiling, because I feel like Levshunov is a safe pick. And I see a lot of people in the chat kind of saying, like, well, he doesn't have any, like, superb traits. But for a defenseman, if you got a guy that can do everything well, like if you were to look at Victor Hedman and say, what's the thing that he's great at? Well, he's great at being big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like,
man,
he's just smart as hell. He never makes mistakes. Nicholas Hjalmarsson is, if you want to keep it local, where he wasn't an elite skater or an elite playmaker or an elite scorer, but he had all of it. He was the total package. And well, that's not maybe the sexiest result at number 2.
Those are hard to find.
If you got a guy you can put on your blue line for the next 10 to 13 years and just set it and forget it, like that's what I always say about Duncan Keith. Like Duncan Keith was so good you didn't even have to talk about him.
Right.
It was like, yeah, he'll be fine. Let's talk about the other 5.
That's kind of the Vlasic situation too, and that's kind of why I love how it's the Levshunov lean. I have been leaning towards him, but again, like you said, if they go with Demidov, clearly checks all the boxes. All the factors don't seem to be too much. What did Michkov go last year? 7?
7.
Yeah. So
but that's because he had what, like 2 or 3 years left on his deal.
True.
So he was like, I think, 4
and the
years
Flyers
away.
are in more of a situation to acquire someone like that.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Like if this draft is last year, are you more, take Connor Bedard out of the equation? I think I might be a little bit more okay with going with Demidov. And I'm still okay with going with Demidov. I just prefer Artyom Levshunov. Because you have a few more years looking forward.
The thing for me with Demidov is I look at a guy like that and say, when's a guy like that going to come around for the Hawks again? Okay. But you could also make the argument that it's much easier to go sign a forward that can score.
I think that's my
than a
argument.
right-handed defenseman that's going to be a stalwart for the next decade.
Someone you can rely on, someone that kind of not changes the dynamic of your team, but just puts something in there that gives you so much more depth at that position. And maybe he can learn under Alex Vlasic. Maybe he can learn under Seth Jones, Connor Murphy. He's still probably, a year away?
Yeah.
But those guys still hanging around there, it makes sense to me in terms of how they could pass the torch that way.
It'll shock you to know that the chat is understanding my point. My point about him not being great at anything. I'm not saying he's the next Victor Hedman or Nicholas Hjalmarsson or they play the same way. I was just saying that none of those guys have like a standout individual trait. Like this guy has rocket speed or this guy scores at a massive level. It's that they have a bunch of attributes that make them, when you combine all the attributes, a very good player.
But people are still higher on his offensive game than his defensive game as a defenseman, right? So, I mean, isn't that a huge trait that would be sexy to most?
Sure, I would think so, but
not the chat.
Not the chat. Yeah. All right, let's we spent too much time on that. So let's do another question. We'll play the video of Levshunov maybe a little bit later.
Do we want part 2 of this question?
Yeah, we can knock it out real quick.
All right, from SB84. Follow-up, if pairing Levshunov and Korchinski doesn't completely work out years down the line, wouldn't the Blackhawks be able to deal Levshunov, a big right-handed defenseman, for a similar group of assets they paid to get Seth Jones?
Maybe. I mean, there's just a lot of thoughts, a lot of projection going on in there, and like, if Levshunov doesn't work with Korchinski, he might work with Vlasic, or he might work with a defenseman that's not here yet. Maybe it's Ethan Del Mastro. Maybe it's Nolan Allen. It doesn't necessarily have to be Korchinski. I think appreciate the question,
but I do think I think that steers it back to the question of who is the better available player. I mean, if you're talking about what you're going to get more from which player, then okay, wouldn't you go with the guy that you're going to get more from? Because,
you would think,
yeah,
you would think so. All right, let's do one more before we hit the break. Wow, we are.
Yeah, it was. We spent a lot of time on that one question. It's a good day to have 30 questions. We just took 10 minutes.
My bad. That's on me.
This one from RJK. I've been seeing this in the chat a little bit, so this is good timing, actually. If you could eliminate 2 topics of conversation forever, but then you had to deal with the other every podcast, which would you choose? Fans angry when the Hawks win because draft. Seth Jones contract bad, much angry. When is Showtime coming back?
Oh, so
and I'm seeing the Seth Jones in the chat within the last couple minutes.
The show with this one, right?
Yeah, I had to eliminate 2 of those 3. I think the Patrick Kane one eliminated itself. Kyle Davidson took care of that for us last week. I would say the Hawks fans angry after a win is very frustrating. So I get rid of that one, and I'll get rid of the Patrick Kane one too. I'll continue to. What's the word? People always say I'm like a carry water for Seth Jones. But
nice. No, I would agree with you for 2 things. If the Hawks fans aren't complaining about winning anymore, then that's a good sign. And I as much as I know the Seth Jones conversation is a demise to you and everyone else, Jay and Mario, it kind of is a good refresher and a good reminder to what he does do and what he does bring to the table.
Yes.
It is a little bit educational, even though maybe some fans might not retain that information. It is informational.
That's the key, is the retention, which is a problem from time to time. Hey, the Stanley Cup final and the NBA finals are underway, allegedly, right? NBA finals are happening?
Yeah.
That sounds like a thing that's going on. If you'd like to play some wagers on either of those, hit up our friends at Circa Sportsbook. They've got tight money line splits and their low hold model. Their games strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other sports books, which may use the dreaded -115 or 120 splits. And Circa Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, so futures, golf tournaments, etc., especially when you compare them to other books. They've got high app limits, and they're very transparent. Circa does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. I would know nothing about that. They encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available. Compare the lines, and they're confident when you do, you will choose Circa more often than not. They've got real people behind the Circa Sports brand, so they'll resolve your issues in a timely fashion with no chatbots. All aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. So here's what you do. Download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. They're with us for all Cubs Friday 120 clubs. And if you or somebody you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. Or text GAMB to 833-234. Or visit areyoureallywinning.com. And Joe, I know it was a nice weekend. Did you choose chill this weekend and crack open some beers?
Only a few, but they were all Coors Lights. What?
It's a natural.
Wow. It's like I didn't tell you about that before the show. That's crazy. When I choose chill, I also choose Coors Light.
Seriously?
I do. And this was a great weekend to be outside, mow the lawn, get attacked by cicadas, all those great things. And when I was done, and I had to walk into my back door and say, cicada check, and do the spin for my family. And there were only 7 or 8 on me at the time. So once they were removed, I chose chill and cracked open a Coors Light because you know by now, and Joe knows because he had some this weekend, it's mountain cold refreshment. When those mountains turn blue, it is as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When you embrace a chill mindset, it's a good time to choose chill and crack open a Coors Light. Like I said, Coors Light is mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as Chris Bryant's Colorado Rockies make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. We did this last week, and we had Darren Pang on, and Darren Pang holds up a 30-pack of Coors Light. I was like, no way. How did that work out? That's amazing.
Totally random.
Yeah, it was totally random. We did not send it to him. We could have, though, with CoorsLight.com/CHGO hockey. But he won't give us his
Coors
address.
Lights yesterday. I was golfing.
6?
Yeah.
18
Coyote
holes?
Run and Flossmore, yeah, 18 holes.
Dude, you're right in my backyard.
I was just spying on
Did
you
it
all
help your
weekend.
game?
Shoot a text, dude.
Oh, it helped me get over my game.
Okay.
Yeah,
there you go.
my game was no good. I got
Now
no game.
Now that's a slogan.
Yeah.
Game, no good. All right, let's keep going.
All right, this one from Windy City Hockey. Create a perfect line for Bedard. Who would you place on his line from current to past Blackhawks?
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Stan Mikita and Patrick Kane.
Next
No,
question.
no. I can't say that. I got.
All right, Seth Jones, fine.
I'll say. I think Marion Host is a perfect hockey player. So I would put Mikita at center, Bedard on left wing, Host on right wing.
I mean, I can't think of anything better than that, right? I mean, but it makes sense. Hossa can go get the puck for him and help generate things. So
Roenick and Bedard would be fun too.
it would be. What about like Slater Cuckoo?
Oh yeah, how did I forget him? There was a cool story about him, a Players Tribune thing about him.
Oh yeah, he's not playing anymore, right?
No,
and just totally found peace in his life.
Good for him.
Yeah, no,
that sounds amazing. When you need peace in your life, crack open a Coors Light. Anthony Tony says Bedard hosts a C-chord. That would work. No Lebowski, not Sergei Krivo-Krasov. All right, let's move on.
All right, this one from Genesis. Sounds like you're sick of draft trade questions, so here's another one. I kid. Jake Gensel, 6-year, $8 million, or Jeff Skinner in a trade for $9 million with 3 years remaining?
Skinner is what?
That's interesting. Jeff Skinner's 32. So 35. And what was the other? Put that back up for me,
Gensel
Steven.
for 6 years and $8 million.
So you're getting Gensel for... so Gensel will be 36 at the end of that deal.
Yeah, that's a lot, right? I mean, that's a lot of years.
Yeah, it's a lot of years.
You're in the boat of if you do go with Gensel for a shorter term, right?
Ideally.
I mean,
I'm going to say this. I'm not mad if they sign Gensel and
Right.
I'm not going to be upset about it. It'll raise my eyebrows and I'll say, they're probably not going to love that on the back end, but fine, whatever. Ideally, yes, shorter for more money. But yeah, I don't know. I think Gensel's a better player than Skinner, but Gensel's been on better teams than Skinner. Skinner's never really been on a team where he's not forced to be like the guy or at least like the A or B guy.
But I really liked what you guys said about Gensel coming over from Pittsburgh, coming over with Crosby, being that piece for Bedard possibly. And it's funny because when I saw the previous question about Bedard's line mates, I mean, are fans really forgetting how much Taylor Hall is going to be a factor for this upcoming year?
I can't count on him for anything.
Okay. I get that.
In my mind, anything and nothing personal. I'm glad they made the deal, but until he's out there, in my mind, he's not here.
But in the Hawks' minds right now, I mean, I don't think they're doing anything to give Bedard a consistent line mate for next year. Because I think as of right now, it's Taylor Hall and Philip Kurashev, no?
That'd be great. I hope that if Kyle Davidson's listening, Kyle from Chicago, I would operate as if Taylor Hall is not on this team. And anything you get from Taylor Hall is gravy.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. He's at some point it's a trend, right? And it's a major ACL injury. I know he was skating at the end of the year, close to 100%, will be 100% for camp, assuming nothing goes wrong between now and then. And if he's healthy for 82 games, hell yeah. Playing with Connor Bedard, he's probably going to give you 70-some points at least. Mm-hmm. But I just can't go into this season being like, okay, Taylor Hall's here in Sharpie, boom.
Yeah, but I mean, I also don't see him as a long-term piece.
No, not at all.
Because of everything.
Right.
But acquiring him last year was for multiple reasons.
Right.
To make the trade with Boston, to help him kind of mentor Connor Bedard both on and off the ice. I feel like heading into the second year, I understand the end of the year meeting. It was all about we got to be better next year, and I agree with that, and I think that is the right thing to say. But there is also some proceeding with caution with all that, right? He has said multiple times how he's not super accelerating this rebuild. Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel like I never thought of it from what you just said. Heading into this year, thinking of Taylor Hall as a non-factor.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't.
You're right to bring that up.
Yeah, but I don't mean it in a Taylor Hall sucks move
right,
on
no,
thing.
For sure.
I'm saying that if he's healthy for 60 games, that is a massive win for the Hawks. I think if you got Kyle Davidson over a beer right now and said Taylor Hall's playing 60, he would high five you.
Okay.
Right? Because I think and I hope that, like I said, they're operating with the thought of, all right, he's here, but what can we realistically count on from him? We have to move on as if he's going to be hurt for a good portion of the year. So,
I mean, was part of the process of just to go through, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know the answer of this, but to go through with the surgery to make sure you get as much as you can from 1 year rather than be on the fence about it?
I think so. And I think, too, that Taylor Hall looked at things and said, I know this team's not going anywhere. You all know no one's
right. If there's a time to do it, it's now.
Yeah, no one had any misconceptions about what the Hawks were last year. And I think, it almost feels like they kind of had to convince him to slow it down because he kept trying to come back and come back and come back. And
well, I'm sure there's a pride thing to that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, and especially a guy who's been tagged as injury prone.
Right.
Every time he gets hurt, he's like, damn it. I'm trying to shake this and I can't.
Right.
Wasn't he playing with an injury for some of that time?
Yeah, I mean, he was banged
he missed
up.
10 days.
And he came back and just tried rushing. So he tries gunning through.
But I mean, the games he played, he was pretty solid.
Oh yeah.
But look, if they get 60 plus out of him, it's a massive win.
See, now that's such a huge part of next year. Then
it is. And let's not forget too, they need to spend $11 million to get to the cap floor.
Right.
And I mean, of course, you've got some RFAs to resign, but your key ones are locked up. You got Reichel
But again,
locked
doesn't
up.
that work in their favor where they can sign short-term deals for guys who...
That's what I'm saying. Like, the more I think about this Gensel thing, I don't know. Like, okay, let's... What I thought exercise for myself when we talk about this stuff is I have to, like, step back and say, why does Jake Gensel, with his last chance for a big deal, want to come here versus other markets that could be cup contenders or whatever? Chicago's a great market. Yes. He's from the Midwest. Yes. The opportunity to play with Connor Bedard is exciting, of course. Like, check all those boxes. The Hawks can pay him more in terms of salary than most teams can. Correct. Okay. Those are legitimate reasons to come. But
It's got to make sense for both sides.
Yeah, and when I look at those from the Hawks' perspective, like, I'm sure they don't care about paying him more. But again, why would you give him 6 years if you're the Hawks right now? Is he the kind of guy, like, he's not a Hossa level player.
Right.
Jake Gensel's he's like a B level star, right? He's not the kind of guy that's going to take your organization, take it to the next level. If you're a Stanley Cup champion, Jake Gensel's probably your third or fourth best forward.
So the age is the biggest outlier because let's say he were to sign a 3-year deal.
I'm done.
Right.
I'm happy with that, but why would he?
Rack up points on Bedard's line.
Sure.
Show his value, maybe be somewhat of a bridge deal, but again, the age is the outliers. So
because at 33, even if let's just project him as point per game, which might be generous, but let's just, again, for the thought exercise, who's giving him big money at 33? But then, at the same time,
how does that
what
help him?
contender can pay him what the Hawks can pay him?
Again, that's where it goes. Yeah, that's where the Hawks have a benefit right now.
If they can convince him to come here and play and say, you are on a line with Connor Bedard every freaking game. There's no doubt about it. You're the guy. You know, move Philip Kurashev down where he can probably thrive and fits a little bit better. Like, everything looks a lot better with Jake Guentzel and Taylor Hall here.
Maybe it starts the trend of what you were talking about of rotating in veterans for short-term deals. And Gensel's the poster child of, I came here for a couple of years. I loved it. It's Chicago. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to play. Bulk up my stats. And are you in a better spot 3 years from now if you're Jake Guentzel as if you signed with a what? Buffalo,
Devils, somebody like that.
Islanders,
right.
Because they're probably looking to move you later on if they're not making the playoffs at those points.
And here's the other thing to think about too, right? Like, we like Buffalo, like they've got a lot of good players. New Jersey, the Islanders. Aside from New Jersey, I don't see those teams like really doing what it takes to become a legitimate cup winner. So maybe Jake Guentzel looks at this and says, okay, Bedard, Vlasic, Jones, Hall's here, Nazar's coming, Oliver Moore's on the horizon, whoever they pick it to. Look at all these young defensemen. In 3 or 4 years, who's going to be closer to a cup, Chicago or Team X?
And maybe he looks at what happened with Nick Foligno. And, hey, if everything goes right and I do sign a short little 3-year deal, maybe down the road they will continue it for 2 years because they do value the leadership, those little intangibles, those types of things. I know they'll be in a different position at that point, but I mean, as of right now, that regime still seems to value those types of things. So that's another reason why I was a big fan of the Foligno and Dickinson and Mrazek signings, because it shows the rest of the league what the Hawks are valuing right now.
We're not just gonna suck forever.
Right.
Derek Hill, hope I said that right. Deraki says there's another thing. Hawks aren't the only ones with money. There are multiple teams with more cap space. Yes, but the Hawks are Chicago with their original 6, and they have Connor Bedard.
Right.
So that's what a lot of those other teams can offer. And Steven, can you scroll up a little bit? There was a comment I liked. I'm sorry, this is really hackish. Keep going. Keep going. You're almost there. There we go. Luke says, imagine this. If a 32, 33-year-old Guentzel was available in 3 years, when you're ready to compete for $8 million a year, are you doing it? That's our window. So he's saying, do you sign him for 6 years now? Because you feel like in 3 years, he's still got to be worth $8 million to get over the hump and make you a legit cup contender. I just don't know if Guentzel is that guy.
That seems like a lot of people to be on the books for at that point.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we don't know what... We assume Seth Jones will be there at that time.
You think?
Guentzel, and I know the cap's going up, and there's all these other intangibles, but if the Hawks are looking to be that competitive at that point, odds are the roster is bulked up a lot more. So, I don't know. I think that's why I value a shorter-term deal with Guentzel, because it's kind of like a situation, I know what I got here. I know what works, and I might... Maybe he does take a hometown discount at that point. We're looking way down the line. But
I mean,
I guess that's what's the point of the Mailbag Monday.
The other thing, too, is, and I think a lot of people are like, well, why not wait and pay someone? The other thing is, if this shakes out the way the Hawks think it's going to, I mean, Connor Bedard is going to be a $13 million player. You're thinking you're going to get that Vlasic deal is great. Really happy they signed that. You hope Korchinski or Nazar or one of these guys is also worth a pretty high deal. Whoever you drafted 2, is going to be expensive down the road, probably, if things all work out.
And then what happens next draft?
So when you look at like a Marner, Draisaitl type, or Mikko Rantanen type, if they even hit free agency, which is huge,
right?
You're going to have to pay them $13-14 million for 8 years or whatever it is. Who does that cost you down the road? So, whereas Gensel is like a nice kind of, like I said, a B-level star.
Yeah.
You can sign him for less money than the superstars, and he's still going to provide you pretty solid play while your prospects develop.
It gives you more flexibility. It's a little bit of a safer route, and he's got a track record. I mean, that does make sense in my eyes.
All right. Well, I can't wait for this like offseason to like really kick into full draft free agency, because I just feel like I just twist myself in knots talking about this stuff. And if, sometimes you got to choose chill with Coors Light. Sometimes you need to disappear into another dimension. And when I want to disappear into another dimension, I hit up my friends at Sunnyside.
Oh, man.
You're home for judgment-free
Does it really
cannabis
say
shopping. It does not, but I'm speaking from experience. A place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. They're your one-stop shop for all your needs, and they have their expertly curated menu by all the experts at Sunnyside with over 100 strains to choose from. If you're brand new, Sunnyside has expert guidance and brands they know you'll love. Like my 2 favorite brands written right here in a copy, Good News and Mindy's. Man, love that stuff. Helps me sleep.
Are you speaking from this dimension that you're in right now?
Yes, I am in the same dimension as you at the moment.
Got it. Good to know.
But I know, like, the first time going into a dispensary can be, like, a little bit intimidating because, I don't know, you feel like you're going in with all these people who've been doing this for years and they really know what they want, and you kind of feel like a dumbass when you go in there. I went into Sunnyside the first time I went there, and they were just like, what are you trying to do? Like, what are your needs? And I said, like, basically,
you need to go to another dimension.
Where's the dimensional travel here?
Sometimes I want to go to another dimension. Sometimes I want to just sleep through the night.
Got it.
And they say, perfect. Here's what you're going to need. This, I take the counting sheep, the Good News counting sheep. Love it. And they're like, you probably take half of one of these and you'll sleep through the night. If you need a little more, fine. You can up it. But they just do such a good job of making you feel like you're educated. You know what you're doing. Don't be intimidated. Head to sunnyside.shop and use the code HICHGO. That's HICHGO at checkout for 35% off your favorite brands like Cresco, Good News, and more to elevate your first purchase. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois MedCard holders. So, yeah, the counting sheep, man, it has been a lifesaver for me. It's just so good. I just bite one in half before I go to bed, and within a half hour, I'm out. I've not slept through the night my entire life until I found these, honestly. Like, I joke around about disappearing to another dimension, but
that is also another term for sleeping.
Yes, but the great thing about legalized cannabis is it's all regulated and you get exactly what you want, and it's been life-changing for me. It really has. You know what else has been life-changing? Being a CHGO diehard. I get it automatically because I work here. But if you don't work here, Joe, you should head to allchgo.com.
Okay.
Get your credit card out. Become a diehard today. Here's why. You get a free shirt like this one or any of our great designs available at chgolocker.com. You get that right away when you sign up. You get access to our great written content, everything we've got at allchgo.com. And our events are awesome. We've got our golf outing coming up in July. I invited Joe and Charlie. They said no.
I said maybe. What's the date again?
Don't worry about it. July 22nd is the date for our first golf outing of the summer. There's another one coming up. It's going to be a great time. But you save 20% on our events. You save 20% on all of our merch. It pays for itself. So you buy yourself a t-shirt at 20% off. You go to an event at 20% off. You go to a Bears tailgate for 20% off. It is paid for itself. Just like that. And, oh, yeah, you get all the great goodies that come with it. It's a great value. Become a diehard today. We really appreciate it when you do. We've got some new diehards we want to shout out this week. Matt and Joe have signed up today. That's the latest update. That's as of 9:30. I'm sure we have several others. Also, Dominic, Nathan, and John, and Bill. We've got a whole bunch that have signed up over the last few days. So join us on July 22nd at the golf outing, allchgo.com for all that info. All right, let's go back to the mailbag. By the way, the Joe brand bump is real. We got a lot of people watching the show right now. However, it is not translated into likes.
Yeah, this is 2 shows in a row for me where we have a ton of viewers and the like-to-viewer ratio is just not there.
Yeah, that's shameful. So why don't you do this?
People are just that lazy they can't like the thing right there?
I wouldn't call it lazy. That's insulting the audience, Joe.
I'm sorry.
I wouldn't do that. What you should do, though, is spike that like button right now. 3, 2, 1, hit the like button, like spike. Here we go. Ooh, look at that. 9, just like that. If you want the Hawks to draft Demidov, hit the like button. If you want the Hawks to draft Levshunov, hit the like button. If you want Caden Lidstrom, hit the like button. If you dream of Patrick Kane returning to Chicago, hit that like button. If you're glad Stan Bowman is not allowed, Stan Bowman is still not allowed to participate in the NHL, hit the like button. What else? If you think Marian Hossa is a god living on earth, hit the like button. Anything else? If you hate Detroit, hit the like button. What else we got?
If Nicholas Hjalmarsson just blocked a shot,
hit
the like button.
If you're rooting for the Oilers, hit the like button. If you're rooting for the Panthers, hit the like button. All right, I think we've covered all of our bases. All right, let's tear the sack open again. Let's keep going.
All right, since we were talking about the salary cap floor, let's get a question about that. Blackhawks 63 with 9 roster spots open per cap friendly while it lasts, and $11 million to make the cap floor. Presuming that 3 to 4 spots go to AHL players moving up for $3 million in cap, how do you see Kyle Davidson getting to the floor, let alone moving above it?
Well, I think this is a big part of why we're talking about a big free agent. And just based on what Davidson was saying at our friends at What Chaos call it breakup day, the exit interview day, it feels like a couple moves are being made. I would expect an impact forward, an impact defenseman, and then like a third or fourth line forward. In terms of free agents, that would be, if I was to predict, I can't really give you a specific names right now, but another Foligno type would be like that third or fourth, maybe not quite that age. I also don't think a trade is out of the question. Like maybe there's a team with an RFA that they can't bring back that we're not really thinking of. A lot of the stuff that Kyle Davidson has done has been kind of out of the blue. Like you look at the Dickinson trade. Yeah. Even Taylor Hall was kind of mentioned because it made a lot of sense. And you knew Boston had to move money, but the Foligno element, the Corey Perry thing came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. So he's got a million different things percolating. But I would think you're going to have 3 pretty significant ads. And then, like you mentioned, whoever your call-ups would be, whatever minor league players make the team.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Davidson has been and is very creative with manufacturing, hitting the cap floor, and also using what he's dealing with to his benefit at the moment. I think you're right. I like the idea of 3 guys and kind of balancing it out offensively, defensively, and a little more offense. But then all those little guys, and I mean little contracts to fill in the slots later on. I mean, I'd love to see Joey Anderson back.
Whoa.
I missed that. Whoa. There we go. Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of guys that, kind of were just good filler pieces last year, so it'll be interesting to see who comes back in that regard. I don't know, maybe Joey Anderson, Reese Johnson, love Mackenzie Entwistle. I don't know, though.
Here's the RFA forwards. Joey Anderson, Mackenzie Entwistle, Reese Johnson, Taylor Radish, and then you've got Tyler Johnson, UFA. Certainly sounds like he is not coming back. Right. Based on his, peace out, Chicago. Yeah. Yep. And Colin Blackwell. And then your UFA defenseman, I think all these 3 are gone. Zaitsev is playing in Russia. Jared Tenorti and Jacob Magna.
So, but I mean, when you look at that, when you look at cap friendly, it's kind of encouraging because you feel like, okay, the Hawks probably will improve with all those empty slots.
Yeah. And look, all those guys we named, the RFA guys, try hard. Yeah. Give their all. Good dudes. It's time for a little better.
No, for sure.
I think I look at all those guys and say, are any of these guys NHL regulars? And to me, the answer is no. I don't know.
For sure. I'm just
I love that whistle and a call up.
Short term next year. Yeah. Because again, where are the Hawks next year? Are they Stanley Cup contenders? No.
No.
But are they more entertaining, more aggressive, more competitive? We hope so. And with the situation they're dealing with right now, a lot of it is relying on optimism, though. Everything we just mentioned about Taylor Hall. But the fact that they said they want to be more aggressive, they have the ability to be more aggressive with free agency. And the trades, it's just because trades are always hard to speculate, right?
Yeah.
And it's worrisome of, okay, are they in a position where they're looking at who they are willing to trade or who they are willing to trade for? Like, who's available out there? Who are teams asking for? Because if they just got a handful of guys that they're cool with moving, I don't know if that's going to match up with the same thing from the other teams.
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys just won't get qualified too. To say thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Good luck. Go find a contract somewhere. And Roy, right on cue, says, Seth Jones, can he be moved? You need to spend $11 million to get to the cap floor. You're not moving $9.5 out. Then you're going to have to spend $19.5 million or $20 million to get to the floor. And that's when really dumbass spending comes into play. So no, Seth Jones is not going anywhere. Move on. It's find a new thing to complain about because he's here. He's pretty damn good. He's not perfect, but people really have like $1.5 million overpay is what you'd say about Seth Jones.
You know what it is? It's the pineapple on pizza, man. It's everyone's saying this. Let's jump on the bandwagon. And I get it. There's numbers that support your case, but there's a lot more numbers that say otherwise. And just the other things that Seth Jones does. You guys have talked about it a ton. One thing I do want to bring up, and I don't mean to dictate the conversation.
It's your show, buddy. You're on it.
Not really, but hi, great to be here.
You're here. It's your show.
Can I pick your brain on the Reichel deal?
Yeah.
Because I feel like 2 years gives both sides the best case to see what's there.
Yes, I agree. And 2 years, $1.2 million, and he's a restricted free agent after that, so they still have his rights. It's time for him to show it. And look, I have a lot of faith in him. You just watch him play, and you're like, that's a really good hockey player. For me with Reichel, it's between the ears. Yeah. Like, he just needs to figure out. And we saw it at the end of the year this year. We saw it at the end of the year 2 years ago.
And that's what's frustrating because it's not like it's a intentional thing even mentally. Like, I need to be better. I want to be better. I'm trying to be better. And again, in between the ears, like you said, the mental aspect of it.
It's a lot. It's a lot on him. And I feel like maybe they're like overburdening him with stuff and saying like, now you got to do this, make sure you're this and this and this and this. And he's like, Jesus, just let me play. Just let me play my game.
What do you think? Because of the putting him at center?
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but a lot of times like it felt like overwhelmed. And we would watch games and be like, hey, I thought Reichel was better tonight. And then after the game, you'd hear like, well, there were these things he probably could have done a little better, and we'll keep working with him on it. Like, it's like for him, it's like kicking the nuts night after night after night.
Yeah. And I do think that that's a big challenge for Luke Richardson, finding the right way to feed these guys information in the right way. Like he brought up, Korchinski's night was just 19 this past year.
Yeah.
You can't always be hard on him, but you can't always be easy on him.
Right.
And you've got to kind of ease into your criticism on him, but still in a productive and positive way. Because he even brought it up to like the point where his brain is still developing at that age.
Literally, yes.
Yeah. So scientifically.
Right.
So I feel like that's kind of the Reichel situation too, because to your point, coming at him with so much stuff so consistently, I mean, there was so much to be fixed and tinkered with in the Hawks last year. It was kind of frustrating that Lucas Reichel, who was supposed to take this big step forward, was somewhat of a disappointment. Yeah. So,
at least we got
to quick fix this.
Yeah, Kurashev kind of offset it.
Yeah.
By having the year he had, but boy, it'd be nice to have both those guys. And here's my thing with Reichel is, okay, so if Nazar makes a team and you sign Gensel or someone like Gensel, is Reichel a bottom six guy? You kind of have to have him in the top six. And I need to see more from him before I'm just plugging him in on the top six.
And I agree with you, and I think that's justified, but that kind of sucks because can't you see that working negatively with his development?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's a tough spot, but you don't want to just give up on a guy who has so much upside.
You don't want to give up. You also don't want to hand it to him.
Right.
So which is it? And I think with a little bit of success Like I probably made too much of it, but the fact that he scored in the last game of the year, I think that was meaningful for him.
Yeah.
Like to be like, okay, I can put a puck in a net. I remember how to do this. It was a nice goal.
And it was the way he scored it, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like making it happen, breaking through 2 defenders.
It wasn't like it hit him in the shin and went in.
Yeah.
It was a legit goal.
You guys might have talked about it, but Darren Pang was interviewing him in the first intermission, and he was like, what was going through your head there? You see the 2 defenders closing in, and you get past it. He's like, I really wasn't thinking. I was just doing. And it's like, good. That's what you need to do. That's what we want you to do. And
yeah, that's it.
so hopefully that can continue that way.
Yep. All right, let's go. What do we
got a super chat here from Windy City Hockey, who's covering you for your.
Thank you.
These guys are really on you.
Got you for saying he who should not be named twice.
Yeah,
you did say it
you
twice.
Know our
so
rule.
$2.
I do. Yeah. I don't think I said it.
For those that
record.
are new, no, you did not. Those who are new, the reason we don't say the name is not because of its personal. It was because we were tired of people blaming him for everything, even though he had been fired and moved on. So we might be revisiting the swear jar in terms of his name, because almost everyone with his name on it is gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still some, but
Not Lucas Reichel.
yeah, exactly.
All right, next question here from Rooney. Are there any details about Demidov's showcase?
I want your daughter outside in 5 minutes by herself.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
On second thought.
So it's the week before the draft. It's in Florida. I don't know the time or location. We won't be there. But the part that he's not going to be skating, boy, I still want him. I still want him to be the pick. I don't know. I'll just say, like I said earlier in the show, if they pick him, I'm sure they have assurances he wants to play. Because I think with Demidov, he might be looking at this thing and saying, like, do I want to play in Columbus? Do I want to play in Anaheim? Maybe not. Do I want to play in Chicago? Yeah. Do I want to play with Connor Bedard? Yeah. Like it could be a situational thing for him.
Right.
Where he looks at his opportunity, looks at who he could be playing with, and Anaheim is a team that I would think would be pretty appealing to most forwards because they're pretty stacked up front with a lot of prospects. But could be looking at market, could be looking at off-ice opportunity in terms of endorsements and things like that. So I think there's more to it than just like, I'm either staying or going. I think situation will dictate.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but what is the benefit of continuing your career at the KHL?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't pretend to understand the whole Russian thing.
Right. Me neither. That's why I'm asking you.
I mean, like when we saw with Michkov, like,
Right.
will they let him come over? Even like Ovechkin's running into that. It's like Artemi Panarin.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these guys have had issues with the Russian government. And now we have like, not to like be flippant about it, but like literally the verge of World War III potentially. Yeah. And that's a whole new angle that wasn't there for Ovechkin or Panarin or whatever. I don't know.
Everything is just unreliable to know exactly what's going to happen. And no, I think you bring up a very good point. If the Hawks go with Demidov, it is because not he's the best player there, because I think they're already understood with the fact that it's between those two guys, but that this is the right decision to make at this point.
Yeah.
But Davidson has been very careful with everything. He constantly praises not accelerating things. And I mean, this makes more sense for signing long-term contracts, but he who shall not be named, I mean, Davidson was in that regime. Davidson was there. So
yes,
he saw all the mistakes that were being that had occurred.
Yeah.
So that's in the back of his mind too. I know that doesn't really go into drafting Demidov or not, but I think he is always looking at the big picture, always looking at 5 years down from the road.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point too, because I think there's a lot of people that be like, well, he worked for him, so he thinks the same way. Like I've worked for a lot of bosses,
I think the exact opposite.
And I've been like, note, if ever a boss, do not do this, right? Like not here, of course, elsewhere, the egg store and whatnot. Remember the egg store, 87th and Ridgeland?
No,
it's my first job.
No, that's by Grisano's though.
They only had one kind of egg.
There's multiple kinds?
Well, I mean, you think a place called the Egg Store would offer a varietal of eggs, but there was only one kind of egg available, which is confusing.
It's
on my
not
first
the
day, I'm
eggs
like, well, where do all the
store.
eggs go? Like, the eggs are right there. I'm like,
It's not the eggs store. It's the egg store.
it's a singular. You're right. It's a singular egg store. Whatever.
Well,
people
walk in,
Southsiders
what did you
remember the egg
expect?
store. There was one on Archer. There was one on 87, right by Les Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
If you want to get
Eggs.
give yourself a heart
You wanna
attack for
get eggs.
$11, go to Les Brothers. All right, let's keep going.
All right, this one from Young Gamer, never quick, and it gets cut off. What are the chances of seeing Oliver Moore this year?
I would say Oliver Moore this year will be like Frank Nazar last year. I think at the end of this, when his college season ends, if they don't go deep into the Frozen Four, that you could see him get a handful of games at the end of the year, start the deal early like they did with Nazar, and almost like the identical situation.
I would agree if he has the type of year like Nazar does.
Yeah.
Did.
Yes.
Because they decided to bring up Nazar because they felt it'd be the right time for his development, and, and it made the most sense. So I feel like Oliver Moore would have to have that same type of thing. But I like the idea of sprinkling in a Rockford appearance for him to help his development because he's a fast skater. He's high offense. I mean, put him through the rough and tumble AHL and not earn your dues, but just like get that experience, kind of welcome professional hockey a little bit.
Yeah. Sometimes I worry about like skill guys going to the AHL. And again, just like our first question, like you're drawing parallels that maybe you shouldn't. Like Teuvo Teravainen never thrived in the American Hockey League because he was so much more skilled than everybody he was playing with. And I remember guys would say like, yeah, I was right there and the stick was on my tape. And I was like, how'd this get here? I didn't know what to do with it. Like sometimes when you got like really highly skilled guys, it's not the greatest to have them play with less skilled guys because it frustrates them and it slows them down. I don't know, man. I also have to take off the what will be more entertaining for me to watch on a nightly basis hat because that skews me a lot. Because boy, I want Frank Nazar here ASAP. I want Oliver Moore here ASAP because it's going to make the Hawks more exciting.
Here.
Yeah, but I also need, like Kyle Davidson is doing. Nope, step back, pace yourself. We don't have to, like you said, he learned from the mistakes of his predecessor. You don't just throw every high draft pick out in the NHL immediately because it can ruin some careers.
But I don't mean to go back to the Reichel conversation, but he was a different player in the AHL, and he was by far the better player amongst all of them.
Well, I think maybe the difference between Teuvo and him is Reichel strikes me as a guy who needs the puck.
Okay.
Right? Like he's the kind of guy who can control a shift, stick handle through guys, where Teuvo is more of a distributor, more of a playmaker. Yeah, he could score goals too, of course. Maybe he'll come this summer. That would be nice. But maybe just kind of different styles. So if you're trying to set up, not to be mean, but Reese Johnson, you know what I mean? Like I'm sure there were times Teuvo was like, come on, Brandon Bolig. Like, can you like get a stick on the puck? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's part of it. So it's different styles, different guys. But in Rockford, Reichel did have the chance to be the guy who primarily carried the puck and controlled the pace and did those sort of things, and that suits his game better. So I don't know. Every player is different, but when you look at Oliver Moore, you look at Frank Nazar, puck carriers, guys who dictate play. So and I really want them to find out too, are those guys centers? Because that's why, like, the more this goes and the more I hear about it, I get very interested in Caden Lidstrom. He's a center.
Cut and dry.
Center.
Yeah.
Big, which they don't have. And again, I think sometimes the sizing is a little bit over-analyzed.
For forwards?
Yes. Okay. But when you look at the forwards they have, they are all very small.
Yeah.
So adding that number 2, no questions asked center with top-line production potential. Look at the great teams of the 2000s, right? You've got are all strong down the middle. Boston, Pittsburgh, LA, even the Hawks would always add. Well, they always sort of lacked that second-line center. They'd always have the best third-line center, right? Dave Boland or Antoine Vermette or whoever it might be at the time. But then they bring in Brad Richards or they bring in Michael Handzus, which at the time, like, a lot of people are like, Michael Handzus, and he works out perfectly somehow. So I don't know. That being strong down the middle is important.
That's a good point.
And even we don't even know if Bedard's a center yet.
Right. And think of how much excitement there was for possibly landing Macklin Celebrini, and everyone kept saying, oh, well, Bedard's Kane and Celebrini's Taves.
Right.
It's like, well, that's kind of what the Hawks are still lacking offensively right now is that big, like you said, cut and dry. We know he's a center. We know that will translate to success for what you're going with the full-on hockey team. All that being said, I'm still Team Levshunov.
Fair enough. I got time for what? 2 more, maybe?
We're we're 55 minutes in. Yeah, we could probably do at least 2. All right, we got a lot of questions about this, so we're going to bring it up now. From Brian M. With Cap Friendly being bought out by the shitty Capitals, what website will y'all be using to calculate all the cap fund during the year and checking the contract statuses for the rest of the league?
I don't know what the point. I would love to know why the Capitals felt this necessary. Why'd you have to buy it?
It's got their name in it. Are they like creating a new website on their own?
Fine, but let the software live.
I agree. Wouldn't you? I would think they could monetize off of it.
It's very frustrating.
I mean, is that really why they want it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think anyone.
I don't know. It's stupid, and I hate it. I use Spot Rack a lot for.
Oh, that's how you say that?
I actually wrote the guy, hey, how do I pronounce your site? And he's like, it's Spot Rack, and he goes, it's a terrible name, and I regret it. I'm like,
no way.
I didn't say that. You said that, but yes.
And he didn't answer your question though on how to say it.
Yeah, Spot Rack.
Oh, it is Spot.
Yeah, Spot Rack.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's there. There's also Puckpedia, which is good. Money Puck is good. None of them are as good as Cap Friendly.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that they find some way to. I mean, look, if the Caps own Cap Friendly, and I hope they're not listening, I would pay for Cap Friendly.
Oh.
It is the number one bookmark.
Would you, or would you need
right there. It
your
is the
employer to do it?
I mean,
maybe we don't have to talk about that right now.
It's a tax write-off if nothing else.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
But yeah, it's the number one tab on my bookmarks. I'm there all the time. It is a lifeblood for.
It's weird. CHGO is the number one tab on mine.
Well, thank you. Now that you're a diehard, since you signed up during the show,
I didn't get my T-shirt yet. You said I'd get it immediately.
They're not like out there. They got to come to you from places. Yeah, it just sucks. I would say, Puckpedia, Spot Rack, Money Puck, they're all pretty good. Hopefully someone can kind of.
But even if you do have to pay for it, let some things still be free. Like maybe just the general basis of it. I know the
Well, that's what I use 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Is just let me go see.
But they update like that, too.
Yeah,
That's
right.
what's also encouraging.
Yeah. It sucks. I just hope that it's still around for people to use. If I had to pay for it, fine. Begrudgingly.
Don't tell people that.
I know.
Yeah. All right, this one from Jim. San Jose has virtually no D-men after 35-year-old Mark Vlasic. So what happens if they decide to go D instead of Celebrini?
That'd be great.
Yeah, right.
I would not bet anything on that. If it's 1,000,000-to-1 odds, I'm not wasting my dollar.
Because also, how different is it that San Jose right away was talking about how great Macklin Celebrini is and how much he'll fit in after the draft lottery?
Yes.
It was the exact opposite last year.
Yes, even though we all knew.
Right. I'm not saying either way is right or wrong. It's just interesting, especially because Bedard was even further away, the more unanimous number one.
No, I mean, that would be a bad move. Because, look.
No, it'd be a great move.
Yes, it would. All the talk we have about, is Levshunov the guy at 2? Well, he's definitely not the guy at 1.
Right.
So, I don't know if there's because I think even Levshunov almost feels like a need pick. You know, they need a right-handed defenseman. And,
I mean,
there's some question if he's even
though.
the best defenseman in the draft.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't think, and people are probably thinking I'm biased because I'm a Levshunov guy, but I see it as a need as where this organization is at right now. Not, all right, who's going to help us next year? Mm-hmm. And the Demidov thing is high upside, and everything is out there. There's just so many intangibles and other factors that I'm not quite sure. I think I would rather go with the safer bet. And I know we totally.
No, I know. The stuff I've heard today has really spooked me on Demidov. Because let's say he finishes this year in Russia and then signs a 3-year deal to stay in the KHL or move up to the KHL and play there full time. Now you're talking 4 years until he can play in Chicago. That's not ideal. You don't need to rush him over here.
Right.
But at the same time, you want him here within a year or two.
But I don't know.
Because it's such a crucial piece.
I probably should know this before bringing it up, but what does next year's draft look like?
It's not from what I know.
Not as deep.
It's not as deep as the current
right.
one.
That's right.
No.
Kind of assumed.
Yeah, but I mean, they change in a heartbeat.
True.
2 or 3
even this
guys.
draft. I mean, again, how many? I remember seeing Cole Eisman up there.
Yeah.
in January.
Who could potentially be there at 18 now.
Right.
Well, I mean, even look at last year, like Oliver Moore was like, boy, maybe the Hawks could take Bedard and trade up to get Oliver Moore at like 8 or 9, and then they get him at 18.
He just landed there.
It's just 18, 17, whatever it was. 19, thank you.
Are you, and again, I don't mean to dictate the conversation, but
you're here, you're doing it. It's your show too.
I'm doing it. Hi. The trade up with the New York Islanders.
No idea.
Yeah. No, I don't. I wasn't asking for a lead. But I could make the argument that it puts them in a better spot to do this before the draft, rather than, because everyone, once that move was made, everyone said, "Oh, this is something you see at the draft."
Yeah, right.
But because of where they're at right now, doesn't it mean that puts them in a better spot because they have already upgraded?
Better spot for what? Like to trade up?
For to trade up, yes.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I mean, you've got, I mean, it sounds obvious, but 18 is better than 20. And when this happened, I said, like, you could also be looking at a situation where Kyle Davidson says, I think there are 18 NHL players in this draft.
Yeah.
And I need to get in that 18.
Yeah.
Right? And
I mean, it's a win-win. You either stick with 18 or you're in a better position to move up.
Right.
And kicking that last second-round pick to the curb, I can't believe so many people got so upset about that.
There's a lot of people that say, like, how much is the difference in value between two picks? And that's valid.
But it was, okay, 2 picks, gotcha.
You know, going from 20 to 18.
But then they also went up in the other one.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think it's... Look, I think there's a reason behind everything they do. They're not an organization anymore that just wings it. I think one of my major complaints, even when I was on the He Who Shall Not Be Named boat, because for a while he was a very good GM and knew how to maneuver a cap and make things work and keep the team competitive. Then he signed Brent Seabrook and lost his damn fool mind. Maybe he disappeared to another dimension and never came back. It happens sometimes.
Getting all the points.
Is this organization sees the forest for the trees, right? They know, okay, in 4 years we're going to be here. If this and this happen, we're going to be here. Everything they do has a reason behind it. And that's why if they take Demidov, I'm comfortable with it because I feel like they've done the work. I feel like if they trade up 2 spots, there's a reason for it. I just have a lot of faith in what they're doing. That's why even if they sign Gensel to a 6-year deal, I'm going to be like, that's weird, but okay, I'm going to trust it.
Yeah.
Because I
they
know
deserve the benefit of the doubt. At least
think
for
so.
Right
I
now.
think they've earned the benefit of the doubt. I do.
Real quick, someone in the chat saying Levshunov needs more coaching, or better coaching, or a ton of coaching. I'm just curious about why would that be the case?
Well, he's 18. He's an 18-year-old defenseman. I mean, look at Kevin Korchinski, who came up here and at 19 played the whole season aside from, when his father passed away.
Yeah, but is that time or is that coaching?
It's both.
I mean,
I think the benefit he has, he gets to play under really good longtime defensemen Kevin Dean and Luke Richardson, and learns how to live in the NHL with those guys. But no one at 18 is a finished product.
Right.
Guys, go watch if you can find it. The first 2 years of Duncan Keith were a freaking disaster. He was couldn't skate.
You didn't like him, right?
I did like him. I preferred Anton Babchuk. Let's let it play out before we call me wrong, okay? Babchuk might have a comeback in him. I'm just saying the evidence early on with Keith and Seabrook was, oh, God, these guys need a ton of work. No one, Bedard aside, and even Bedard, you're going to look back at last year's Connor Bedard in 3 years and be like, that's a different dude.
Right.
No one comes in plug and play. And I think this is it's not a problem. This is a unique thing to Chicago is we had a lot of fans jump on as Kane and Taves arrived. Those guys were good right away, which is rare.
And they were sprinkled into a team that was already on the upswing.
Then Brandon Saw was good right away. Rare. Artemi Panarin came over, 24 years old, was good right away. Andrew Shaw was good right away. They had all these guys come in and just be plug and play. And I think a lot of fans were like, whoa, this is the norm.
Yeah.
So now when, for example, Teuvo Teravainen came up and wasn't amazing right away, people are like, well, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
This guy's an absolute bust. What are we doing here? Why is this guy playing like this? We saw a little bit of it with Korchinski last year, even with Bedard.
Yep.
When he would go a few games without a point or whatever, or he'd be held without a shot. People say, well, they say generational. I'm not seeing it. It takes time. So, yeah, I mean, Levshunov in the college hockey game at Michigan State, a renowned hockey program, will get the coaching he needs because he's definitely going to play. Even if the Hawks draft him, he's not coming to the NHL next year.
Right.
It's not happening. There's no need to do that. So hopefully at least another year at Michigan State, get more coaching, get more playing time. He'll have the development staff with the Hawks will be in his ear, working with the people from Michigan State. We went to see this year. We went to see Nazar. We went to see Slaggert. Last year we went to see Ryder Ralston and talked to them all about like what kind of contact do you have here in college that from the development team. They say we hear from all the time. Mm-hmm. Kendall Coyne Schofield's on the phone with me all the time, or Mark Eaton's on the phone with me all the time. And it's not like specifically coaching things, but advice and checking in and those sort of things. So the organization has eyes on these prospects all the time. We went to Notre Dame, Michigan. Kyle Davidson and Brian Campbell were right there. And that was like 2 or 3 days after the Corey Perry stuff. Mm-hmm. They were putting the work in with these guys. So there's
also that right balance too. And Mark Eaton has talked about it in the past as well, that you have to give them guidance. You have to give them support, but you also have to let them grow in their own program. Which I think happens and happens well enough. But once they come over to the Hawks organization, it can't just be, a cold meeting for the first time. Like that relationship has to be there in the right way. And I almost feel like that's where NHL organizations can just kind of like be the real good guy, right?
Yeah,
hey, you're one of us, but you're doing everything good right there. Like, there's really no need to criticize or tinker with things. It's like you're there for positive reinforcement, positive development. So
yeah. Why don't we play do you have the Levshunov thing ready?
Yeah, I got it.
So this was Artyom Levshunov at the draft talking about his time with the Hawks. This is courtesy of our pal, who's not here, even though he was invited, Charlie Romeliotis.
Dinner with
it was cool. Like we had some food, guys. We had some good conversations. It was a fun talk with them. That's it. We just had some fun there. Had some couple beers. No. Just was a good talk with them. Yeah, I think I had a really almost an hour and good conversation.
Do you have a strong feeling that you'll be a Chicago Blackhawks in 3 weeks?
I don't know. I think any team will be good for me. I just want to be drafted, and I think any team they have a good organization, right? I think everyone try to care about their players, and I think I just want to be in NHL someday, and I think it's my dream to play there.
I like him. He's a full body laugher. He's like the
yeah. He did kind of throw himself.
Very hearty laugh.
Do not gift that, please. He's a hearty laugher. So that's Levshunov, courtesy of Charlie Romeliotis. But yeah, it's honestly, the last 24 hours have changed my entire outlook on this thing. And I honestly, right now, if I'm walking to the podium, I'm taking Kate Lidstrom. I'm gonna get fired. Wow. I'm gonna get so fired in 2 years. I know.
When I first saw that clip over the weekend, number one, I really couldn't understand it because there was so much laughing going on.
Yeah.
And I appreciated Ben Pope's article saying like, it was hard to decipher something else he said after the beers comment. And I'm like, that's cool. I like to see that wherewithal from an 18-year-old and have that kind of humor and have that kind of joking mentality. And again, I think everyone understands where I'm leaning right now.
Back in the day, Bill Wirtz would have charged him for those beers. All right, we got a $10 super chat we're going to get to from Mahaffey Max. I don't know. Wow. How much does a GM weigh intangibles when considering best player available? Want Demidov, and I like Levshunov, but I really like Zeev Buium. If Demidov is out, Zeev Buium's IQ, winning pedigree, potential all stand out to me. I
think this is going to the argument of, are you drafting for need or are you drafting? Oh, yeah, I guess that was the
best player available. Yeah. I would say this. You should not overvalue something like he comes from a winning program. Because there's a lot of guys in the NHL that win and then go to lesser teams and they don't win anymore. Right? Like, how many guys have we seen over the years, like, they win a Stanley Cup and they're free agents and they get signed to huge deals and they're like, oh, this guy's kind of just a guy. Long-term Hawks fans will remember Jason Cullimore, who won a Stanley Cup with the Lightning in 2004. Yeah, 2004. Unrestricted free agent. The Hawks signed him, and he was like just a dude. Mm-hmm. He was middle, bottom pair, slow, but he had this really good playoff on a really good team where he was used just so precisely. And like, this is going to be the guy to solidify our defense. And there's a reason he was a bottom 2 pair guy for Tampa, because that's what he is.
But it's also it's hard to compare that with a winning program at the college level compared to a Stanley Cup level.
I mean, look, if you're on the fence between A and B, and one guy plays for, you went to Catholic school, you've probably heard Little Sisters of the Poor before, in terms of a lesser opponent.
Okay,
you guys will lose the Little Sisters of the Poor. Heard that a lot, and they were right, because we probably would have. Or Michigan or Michigan State or Denver or BU or something like that. Like, yeah, take the guy from the better program, I would say. But I'm not taking Zeev Buium at 2 because of intangibles.
Yeah.
You got to, like, I think that's a good way to get fired. And maybe now and again, you're right. You guess right. I think maybe we saw that a little bit with Kirby Dach. Like, I think that we saw he should not be named.
It's such a hard one, though, because of all the injuries. And
but I think he fell in love with the package of, look at this big center who is just dominating everybody he plays and all the personality. And, like, I think that he should not be named fell in love with a lot of the intangibles that Kirby Dach had versus what was his actual output as a player. That's just me.
Yeah, but, I mean, everything that you just mentioned, the quality traits of Kirby Dach are things we were talking about. Big size for a center.
It felt like a reach at 3.
Oh, for sure. That was, I mean, that happened right when they picked him. People were saying, oh, it was a reach. It was a bit of an over speculation. But again, it's hard to really decipher what his ceiling is or will be because of all the setbacks that he's had.
Yeah, it's tough. I hope things work out for him. He is a super good kid.
And his brother. I mean, I hope his brother can be a little more healthy.
It's crazy how the injury thing just follows them around. And we haven't even mentioned Colton Dach's name today.
Yeah,
that's a guy I hope can make the team next year. And
2 years in a row, he has wowed people at training camp.
And then he gets hurt.
Yeah.
It sucks. I was there when I played football in high school. I was hurt all the time. And it's just someone fell on me weird.
You were kind of overvalued, though.
100%. But I mean, like the way Dach got injured.
Yeah.
His leg got caught on a jersey and got pulled. It's not his fault. It's a fluke.
Well,
and when he got hurt in the World Juniors or whatever
Colton
that
Dach's
was.
injury too. It was a concussion in the prospect showcase, right?
Yeah. It sucks. Hopefully things work out for Kirby. I'd like to see him.
Yeah, me too.
Resurrect his career a little bit. All right, we gave you some bonus time today, and we still got to like 6 questions. So we got a ton more to get to tomorrow. Greg will be back, hopefully. Again, send some vibes out for his pup, Stella, who's going through a hard time right now. So everyone knows what it's like when your pet is sick. So send some good vibes Greg's way. And reminder, tonight's watch party at Salerno's is rescheduled to a week from Friday. So the 21st for Game 6. I'm pretty confident this Cup final will get to Game 6. Join us at Salerno's then. If you want to still go to Salerno's tonight and watch the game, feel free. Greg or I or Joe will not be there.
Well, or if you were planning on going to Salerno's and you're not going anymore, just go to the Kane County Cougars game, 6:30 first pitch.
You get half off your pizza slice with CHGO?
I can maybe.
Can you arrange
that?
Maybe
give them half a pizza slice. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, we got to let Joe go. He's got to get out to the sticks, to the boonies. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow. Thanks for being with us. Hit that like button on your way out. We love you. We appreciate you. Talk to you Tuesday at 2:30 on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.